Okay, so in this video, it's going to be something quite different. I'm going to be showing you 15 things to take out of your website immediately or not put in a website that you're currently building. So quite a few people have shown me their website designs. I'm seeing these same type of mistakes. They're all very beginner level type of stuff. But if you want to take your website into a more pro level, then do watch this video because it's going to help you a lot. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start from the top of the website and we're just going to go down. I am going to be recreating all those mistakes here in this video. I'm not going to be showing anyone else's website as an example because I'm not trying to offend or insult anyone that has these mistakes currently on their website. Okay, so the first mistake that some people do on their website is in the navigation, they put all their social media icons. I mean, that's one of the biggest mistakes that you can do when you're trying to keep clients on your website. Now, the reason why I say that is when a person goes into one of those social media platforms and they go to check out your social page, the very first thing that's going to catch their eye is their notifications. You know how everyone is trained to go and just click to see what notifications that there are? It's like, oh look, Timmy just posted a new cat video. Oh, Jane just posted a new selfie. So believe me, there's going to be way too many things that they're going to be distracted by instead of looking at your social page. So the very first thing that you need to remove is those social icons from the header of your website. So social media icons need to be in the footer of your website or in the contact page, or both. But the last place that you put them is in the header of your website. So the next thing we're going to be talking about in the header is the navigation labels. A lot of websites that put home and resources and all that sort of stuff on the top, it's very vague and doesn't really help because there's going to be a lot of pages that just get buried when you're actually trying to get traffic to them. And also keep away from generic labels, stay away from about us, rather use who we are. And also instead of saying services, try to say something like what we offer. It'll just keep the clients to your website a little bit more engaged and they'll see that you are a little bit different from the rest of your competition. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be talking about are vague H1 headings when clients come onto your website. This heading over here is a problem. You can see that this heading just doesn't explain what this company does. So do stay away from generic headings or anything that's in corporate speak, because the more vague the heading is, the less likely you're going to be retaining that client on your website. So this new H1 heading represents what this company does a lot better than the first one that you just saw. So when a client comes onto your website, they know that they are in the right place. And the whole point of the website is to keep the people engaged in it for as long as possible so that you can actually get the sales. So just remember to keep away from generic or more corporate speak type of H1 headings, because you do want to keep the clients engaged on your website and to reassure them that they are in the right place. Okay, so the next thing that people do a lot on their website is right after the home hero section, they immediately go and talk about themselves. Please do not put the about us right after the hero section of your website. Look, we live in a real world. When a client is searching for a product, it doesn't matter what the product is. The first thing that they're going to be looking for is, do you have the product? Are you the cheapest? And if you're not the cheapest, what are the value add services attached to that product to make it more expensive? The last thing that's on their mind is who you are at that point. So when you have that about us section right after the home hero, you've already lost your client. They're already going to click back and they're going to be searching somewhere else for the product that they're looking for. So keep the about us information on the page dedicated to just that, about us. If you have to put in a home page, put it after your products or services, and do keep it as short as possible and have a little button that goes to a dedicated About Us page. Look, at the end of the day, the About Us page is going to be the least viewed page of a website, because I just want to know, do you have the product or service, and if it's the cheapest? They don't really care who you are. Look, if you disagree with the About Us section being on the home page or about the social icons being in the navigation menu, then the only thing I can tell you is stop making your clients leave your website. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be talking about are generic meaningless subheadings. So here on this website, you can see it says our services, and then it shows the services being provided. Do try to stay away from these things. Be a little bit more creative with all your subheadings. I've actually started to notice that some people, when they see that type of generic thing, they just skip over that section and then you're losing the potential sale to a client. So here you can see I've replaced it. It says unlock potential in your sector with our innovations. So you can see it's a bit more creative and captivating, and it makes sure that the people actually look at all the types of services or products that you're offering. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to cover is generic stock photography. Do try to keep away from all those ones with all those people posing. It just looks so fake. Rather go to websites like Unsplash or something like that, where you do get free photos that you can use on your website, something that looks more suited to the website that you're busy making. Using that type of generic stock photography, it really does put a little bit of distrust with the clients when they're viewing the website. So do use something a bit more catered to the website that you are busy designing. Okay, so the next thing we're talking about are very long paragraphs typically found in the About Us page. Look at this over here. This is just too long and no one's really going to read it. So when you do have a lot of text, do try to shorten it out, put a little bit of subheadings, that sort of thing. Really space it out so that it can actually be visually intriguing to the clients that are viewing that page. So over here you can see this is way too much text and it's just going to make a person skip over this whole type of section when you're trying to convey a message. Rather put in images and subheadings like I just mentioned before to really space out everything that you're trying to talk about in that page. So here you can see obviously that this type of About Us that I had put over here as an example is a lot more visually impressive than this sort of thing. And this tip isn't just about Us pages. Do keep this in mind when constructing any page or product. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is badly placed images. So over here you can see in this About Us section as an example that this image over here is clearly too big for the amount of text that's being put next to it. And if I scroll down, some people go and put the image a bit too small and it just looks absolutely horrible when there's a whole bunch of text next to it over here as well. So you can see that the spacing and everything just doesn't look right. So when using images inside your website, so do keep them in the right sizing. If they are vertical and you need to use it as a landscape, then rather cut out that image to better suit that little section that you're trying to put it in. And if the image is too small that you're trying to put in, then go get a better one from some site like Unsplash or anything else like that. The next thing I'm going to be talking about is bad spacing on a website. So over here you can see that in this product section, you can see that these second and third rows are just badly aligned on this website. Just looks absolutely horrible. You have to make sure that everything lines up properly. If you are going for that type of design, make sure that it actually suits that section. It just looks like someone quickly rushed to make this section and didn't care about making everything more symmetrical or better suited for that type of design. And it really does instill a bit of distrust when the client is viewing the website. So do make sure that everything is spaced out correctly when you're making these sections. Another thing that I see a lot of people do is having these dead end pages. Something like this is thank you for submitting your contact request. Now this obviously comes from a contact form, but it has nothing to keep the clients engaged in your website. Rather underneath, put something like subscribe to our newsletter and put a little form there to capture their email address, that sort of stuff. But don't leave these type of dead end pages on your website. There's no use for them to be there like this. So do try to keep your clients engaged in your website and try to stay clear from pages like this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be talking about in this video, it's going to be products that have no pricing to it. This doesn't really help you sell to the customers. Again, they are looking for the product and the price immediately. So if your sales copy is not honed into a funnel to really catch the client, you are going to miss out if you don't put the pricing into your products. There are going to be some clients that are going to be interested and actually inquire, but you are giving up a lot of sales trying to do this tactic. If your product or service is really expensive, then do make sure that you've set up a proper funnel to actually catch the client and also show different testimonials and that sort of thing to really convince the client to actually inquire more about the product. But most of the time, you are going to be losing that client. Okay, the next thing we're going to be talking about is having your email address inside your contact page. This is a bit more of a controversial thing, but there are a lot of scammers that sit with bots and actually scan all the pages of the internet and try to pick out as many email addresses as possible so they can sit and spam you with a whole bunch of needless stuff. On a website, you do have the contact form. Try lean on that more than actually putting in an email address inside your website. Over here, it's going to go to your email anyways, and it'll get rid of a lot of those type of scammer headaches. Okay, so this next one is going to be controversial. I know I'm going to get comments in this video saying that I'm wrong, but the truth of the matter is, dates in blog posts are not needed. Most of the time, the information that you're giving doesn't need a date to that blog post at all. Doesn't make your older posts look a bit dated when in fact the information is still relevant today. Now I know there's going to be people saying though, the first thing that they look at is the date. Well, unfortunately, in the real world, the date is manipulated all the time. There are plugins in WordPress and in other systems that can recycle the same old content for years, giving a more relevant date. And you can even specify how far away from the current date and time that blog post should be posted. Believe me when I tell you, you're not going to easily find any posts from the 90s. There are a lot of those type of posts that are still relevant today, but that content is just recycled to a more relevant date. So anything from history to the chemical makeup of certain compounds, that sort of stuff has no date to it. But you're not going to find any old articles related to those type of subjects. Also, a lot of people use that tactic just to recycle to show Google that they are quite relevant and active on their website, just to keep their rankings up. So these are a whole bunch of different factors that you do have to consider about actually putting in a date. That's why I recommend just not having a date in your content. Now, obviously, posts that are on your website that are very dated, that aren't relevant to today, are things that you should remove from your website anyways, because that actually just makes you look bad. And I'll give you an example of that. Now, say, for example, any blog post or article that's talking about the future of AI that was from 5 years ago. You would absolutely agree that that landscape is a lot different today. So anything that was from 5 years ago would generally have been talking about the future of AI as the Roomba vacuum cleaner and that sort of stuff, when we all know that there's AI out there today that really make you have to analyze, is this real? So all posts like that, you'd have to remove from your website just to keep your credibility up. So that's why I'm a firm believer that you should just remove the date from your blog posts or articles just to save a whole bunch of different headaches and to really keep the client engaged in your content. So something else that's pretty useless on your website are press releases. Those things are formatted to give to journalists, and what they do is they make a story out of those press releases to fit their news agency. That stuff on your website is just going to be useless because no one's going to sit and read through that type of text on a website. And again, press releases go against what I had mentioned before about spacing out very long articles, and that sort of thing is not going to be useful in your website to retain the client in there. Now, keeping in line with things that you should not put in your website are PDFs. Those things are not searchable or can't be indexed by Google, and they don't actually add any value to the client unless it's something like specifications to steel or a chemical or something like that, and that you can put as a download. But generally, most PDFs that people are using on websites are not those type of things. What I found is people just use PDFs as a crutch and not actually transfer that data into a usable format that can be searched and indexed and show the information right now. Try keep them off your website unless it's something very specific. Again, it's going to be like specifications to steel and that, which you should table out anyways for the specifications of that particular product if you really have to. Okay, so those have been the 15 things that we shouldn't put on a website. Here is one more important bonus one that I've kept till the end. So if you've stuck around till this point, you're pretty lucky because this one's actually pretty important. So the last thing I'm going to mention is video in your website. This is a very useful thing, but also a very dangerous thing. There's a lot of people that love to put video in the hero section of their homepage. This is absolutely the wrong thing to do. Video in your hero section really brings down the page speed scores of your website, regardless of where that video is coming from. Don't think for a second that using a video from YouTube is going to help keep the page speed scores up, because that in fact is not true. Google will mark your website down for using outside services. It doesn't matter if it's their own service. And I know people will say, okay, well, I'll just host a video internally. You just don't have the streaming services built into your website to stream that video properly. So using any type of video in that type of format, just try to keep clear of. If you are going to be using video, make sure it's something about the product, or maybe some charity event that the client did, something like that, and make sure it's lazy loaded away from the beginning of that page. You are still going to get marked down for having the video on that page, but it's not as bad as if a client comes into your website initially and has to wait for the page to load forever while your website is busy going to fetch that video. Hope you found this video very informative. If you have any comments or suggestions, then just leave a message down below. Let me see how I can help you or even speak to you about these things. So don't forget to like and subscribe, because that stuff helps my channel a lot. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow.
What is this stuff? Why is it so sticky? Why are you laughing so much?